Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's reviews are going to be a little bit different. I'm taking a little break from reading the Malazan books because I really want to pace myself. With there being over 10 books in the main series alone, I really want to take my time and enjoy them. So I decided to divert my attention to a couple books that had been sitting on my bookshelf that needed to be read. So let's start with Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This book is so popular right now. Every time I open up my Instagram Explore page, this book seems to be on there. And I can't really blame people for posting about it. The covers of the two Bloodsworn books absolutely pop off the shelf. It's just great book design. Also, the book is just very approachable. It's an action-y romp through a Norse-inspired world, and that's always going to be popular. After reading Shadow of the Gods, I definitely wanted more from this world. I was expecting that next great leap with the series, and from the handful of reviews I'd heard, I was getting ready to be blown away. So I opened up the book and I got to reading, just waiting to be blown away. And I waited and waited and waited some more, and then I finished the book. I was really disappointed in this book, to the point where I don't think I'm going to finish this series. I know this puts me squarely in the minority with this opinion, but hear me out for a sec. I'm also going to try and be as nice as I can while still expressing my disappointment. John Gwynne is clearly a talented writer and very successful. I'm just a reader here, so any author's ability to coherently write down their thoughts and ideas is commendable to me. This guy's writing just didn't really vibe with me, and here's why. I think the main theme of this review will be repetition. That's just what kept coming to mind while reading this book. Nothing surprised me, and everything was predictable from page 1. Now, in my Shadow of the Gods review, I mentioned that John Gwynne's style of writing was beginning to wear thin on me towards the end of that book, and it didn't really get any better here, where by the end of this book, I wanted to read anything else. The amount of sheer repetition blew me away. The same few towns and cities in what is supposed to be a sprawling epic? Check. No new threads to the story until maybe the last chapter of the book? Check. Insanely repetitive dialogue choices? Check, check, checkity, check. So let me expand on those a little bit more. The world Gwynne creates here is insanely barren, to the point where I was surprised there's even a map at the beginning of the book. We follow these characters through the exact same towns that we'd seen in the first one, and when we don't follow them there, open wastelands of nameless forests and glaciers. Cool. The story takes us through a lot of backtracking, and as a reader, if you're going to make us backtrack this much, then the story really needs to add that extra new layer to keep you invested, which leads me to the story being dull. Painfully dull. Let's recap the plot, shall we? Orca wants revenge, and she wants her kid back. Okay. Elvar wants to get back at her evil father and win glory and battle fame. Okay. Varg is getting accustomed to having a loving group around him, and he wants revenge for his sister's death. Now, I was actually describing Shadow of the Gods there. Could you tell the difference? And the two new character POVs we get here aren't any better. Bjor will remind you every chapter that he was a thrall. He'd actually get along pretty well with Varg, who has the tendency to do the same. Bjor will also cry about how he betrayed his old group in every chapter. And Gudvar, Why, yes, I would like to read more about a unlikable brat who talks a lot of crap in his head but is actually a weakling. How exciting, John. Thank you. Also, the inconsistencies in the storytelling and just rules of the world started to get very glaring. I wrote down some examples because I was waiting for them to get addressed in the book, and they never did. For example, when Orca's gang meets Elvar and Ulfrir for the first time, and the secret of them being tainted is just out in the open. Keep in mind, Elvar literally has a god as her slave, and she trades in slaves while taking no remorse in it. Also, keep in mind that we just had a moment where Varg slipped up and revealed the Bloodsworn's secret, and it resulted in them having to kill everyone in the bar. Suddenly, the most important secret is conveniently ignored for the sake of the plot having to chug along. Second, everyone is always very shocked whenever a new god appears, even though they're sitting beside new gods that they just resurrected. I thought I was taking crazy pills here. Bjor's group literally resurrected the dragon god, yet when they meet the rat god for the first time, there's literally a line in there that says, "I can't believe he's actually alive." Really? You can't believe it? You rode in here with a dragon god. Now, I'd be able to forgive a lot of these things, and maybe I'd even have liked the book a little more if the writing hadn't been so repetitive. Now, again, this could have just been me not vibing with Gwynne's writing style, but I'll never forget what he did to me with this book. I will still have nightmares over the one swear word that Gwynne decided to use again and again and again. Knitting. Are you a lowly peasant? Knitting. Are you a king? Knitting. Are you a warrior? Knitting. Are you a freaking god? Knitting. I still see that word when I close my eyes. Now, I'm all for swear words in books, but for the love of God, please show some variety. I'm not saying that the gods need to be talking like they were ripped right from Beowulf, but can we get some more words that expand on the mythology and add a little more texture to the world? On another note, Gwynne, buddy, please stop using the word humping. It was funny maybe the first time, but the fifth, the sixth, that's just a personal preference of mine, but I rolled my eyes every time I saw it. The descriptions of battles also don't help. It's honestly the same complaint I had with the last book. There's nothing interesting about reading bloods, guts, and sinew for every encounter. Now, I don't want to end on a sour note. Gwynne's pacing in this story is really good. The story moves along at a brisk pace, and the action scenes are quite serviceable. That's about it. So I'll leave you with this. If you want the full Hunger of the Gods experience but can't find it at your local bookstore, then no worries. Go to your local butcher shop, buy 2 pieces of meat, turn on Animal Planet to get that growling in your ear, and just start slapping the 2 pieces of meat together. So the next few books I wanted to talk about were Fables by Bill Willingham. This series follows all your favorite fairy tale characters, but brought to modern day New York City, with all the angst, snark, violence, humor, and sarcasm you would expect from a modern retelling. All these fables have been displaced from their homelands by the adversary, and the comic follows their struggles and journey to get back to their homeworlds. I was first introduced to this series by Telltale's The Wolf Among Us, and it had been on my mind ever since. The premise is just so interesting. These are all characters that you know and love, but by adding that twist of them being around for millennia and having the emotional baggage to show for it, it really kept me hooked. I loved the first two compendiums. Bill Willingham's creativity is on endless display. The plot and storyline are tight throughout both compendiums, and I wanted to know more and more with each passing volume, which is exactly what a good comic should do. The artwork was also beautiful, and every time a new character is introduced, you are immediately hooked. I did genuinely love this series, but there is a major drawback, and it's the one drawback that most comics have. It just went on for too long. The first two compendiums are pitch perfect, but after the main storyline wraps up around the end of Compendium 2, you're left with two whole other compendiums of just meandering and filler content. Now, because Fables had built up such goodwill for the first two compendiums, it didn't really bother me too much, and I'm still going to proudly display it on my bookshelf. But it's something that's going to nag at me that we didn't get the perfect Fables ending that we could have gotten, only because DC wanted to draw out as much money as they could. And I'm not going to hold this against the series as harshly, because this is just a problem with comics in general. But with the news that Bill Willingham has released the Fables characters into the public domain, maybe we'll get the perfect ending that we needed, as long as DC's lawyers don't kill everyone. So those were the few things that I'd been reading in the meantime. I hope you enjoyed the review, and comment down below your guys' thoughts on both Hunger of the Gods and Fables. Did anyone else have the same opinion reading Hunger of the Gods as I did? And which were your favorite Fable characters? Thank you again so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. And so, until next time, and as always, stay reading. Peace.